Murphy's Law. I was worried about the kids making noise in the background, not the doorbell. Anyway. So we were talking about Susan, who come up from. How did that come about?
I think
how did Susan come all the way up from Cork? Yeah,
I think because Diabetes Ireland, they had an office in Cork and an office in Dublin, and I think somebody mentioned or somebody put us in touch with the Cork office because they had held meetings already, and I think Susan was involved in that, and she agreed to come up from Cork. Fair play to her, to help us out, to sort of give us, because she mentioned it as well about needing someone to chair the meeting because it got a bit out of hand. I think it was just because she'd been involved in meetings before. She said she would come up and kind of point us on the right path. So, yeah. So she was great. Fair play to her. Really appreciated it.
Yeah, it was great.
Who knew what they were doing to start off.
Let's do that first meeting. Yeah, a hell of a lot more than we had here in Clare. We basically figured it out as we went along, but our group started a lot smaller and then grew bigger, so it was easier to manage.
Yeah. So one thing about ours is it's kind of consistently been around 15 people per meeting. I mean, it mightn't be the same 15 people. You'll have different people coming and go, but it's always been a decent.
Yeah, size. On average, would be. I've noticed though over the last year of doing meetings virtually, our numbers have grown a lot. So on average we'd have 25 now logging in, and then if we have a guest speaker, that always goes into the 30s.
It's easier, I suppose, for people to access when it's virtually. It's more people have the choice.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, I was getting emails going, I live in Kerry. Is it okay if I join the Dublin support group? And I was like, absolutely. Like, we only keep it in Dublin. Like, you can come from wherever you want, but it's Dublin because we were based in Dublin, and that's why it's Dublin. But because it's virtual now, sure, we're all over the country, which is fantastic. Yeah. It's fantastic, and it's great that people know about us now, and they can actually, if there aren't any in their locality or even anywhere nearby to them, at least they can join another one now because they're all gone virtual.
Yes, exactly.
It's just brilliant. Like,
so we are celebrating the 10th year because it was February 2010. So you celebrated your 10th anniversary of the Dublin Type 1 Adults support group meeting up. So I know that you've both kind of come and gone and dipped in and dipped out, and the group that kind of, the core group involved in organizing has kind of somewhat expanded a little bit.
Yeah.
But out of the 10 years, do you have some kind of standout moments that come to mind when you kind of reflect back on previous meetings, or something that maybe like either something personal or something that was just a funny moment in the meetings, or something that kind of,
God,
I should have probably prepared you for that.
I think for me, it's really just been, I can't think of any specific moments, but because there's been a few where people realize there's an easier way to do things, where they're like, oh my God, I never realized I could do that. Or like, and for myself, just learning about, because for me, after I came out of the honeymoon period, my sugars just kept going up and up, and it didn't seem to matter. I was on a sliding scale, which now I'm just like, what on earth is like, why? And I was on it for years, like, and I just couldn't understand why I was putting in all this effort and nothing was working. And carb counting had been sort of vaguely mentioned in the hospital, but never really expanded on. So it was through the group that I learned about it. And I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense to me. Why was I not taught it? And, I was able to then go and ask for it. So, and then there's other people like that have had similar experiences that were like, oh my God, I never realized I could do that. Or that's a great idea. So it's been that, I think that stands out for me. I might say I mightn't have specific examples, but I just know that kind of just, oh my God, light bulb moment, and it makes life easier. And like, it's this thing that we have to put up with is just constant. So anything that can make life a little bit easier, as far as I'm concerned, is a winner.
I know one for me, I'm not sure if you were at this meeting, Niamh, or not, but it was an incredibly emotional meeting. We, at the start of every meeting, we just do a really quick round table. Hi, my name is Emma. I'm type 1, X amount of years. I'm on pump or injections or whatever. And this particular night, this girl had just joined the group. She'd never been at one of the sessions before. And she got as far as saying, hi, my name is. And she just broke down in floods of tears. And we were all like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, what's going on? And I can't even remember what the issue at the time was, but I just know she was really upset, but she was overwhelmed by the fact that she knew that every person sitting around, or at least majority of people sitting around that table, knew exactly what she was going through. Then it moved to the next person, and then they ended up in tears. And I think by the end of it,
I remember that.
Myself included, were you there? Myself included, there was like 5 of us in floods of tears that night. It was just whatever was going on, we were all having a really crappy time, and sugars were all over the place, or this or that, or whatever it was. But I remember at the end of the meeting, everybody was like, it's just so nice to be able to talk and somebody understand. Family are great, friends are great, but they just don't get it. And I think that was just a collective around the table that, you know what, it's true, like family don't get it. Well, my brother has since changed his opinion. He has recently, a couple of years ago, became a type 1 diabetic. And he has a newfound respect for me because he never realised how difficult it can be at times until he's actually had to go through it himself. And it's weird, like I would very regularly ring him for advice, and then he was ringing me for advice. And I was like, this is weird. But like things like that, it's I suppose the camaraderie of it all. At every meeting, good, bad, or indifferent, you know. Look, there were some meetings that just didn't go well, or topics were hard to talk about or weren't talked about, and you know, but over the years that's all become easier, I think, and you know, people are a lot more open, and you know, you'll still have people who come, and I'll get messages afterwards going, sorry, I never spoke tonight, it's my first meeting. And I'm like, you don't have to speak. You can come to every single meeting for years upon years and never speak. That's okay. But you learn, you learn, don't you, Niamh? Every meeting, you just learn something. Yeah. Like every day is a school day. Yeah. But particularly I find at meetings, when you hear about somebody, I've been having highs every day between this hour and this hour, and I don't know how to fix it. And I've tried this or I've tried that. There's always somebody will always have something you've never tried, and you'll give it a go. And it may work and it may not, but it's always that kind of constant learning, I guess.
Yeah. That must have been an amazing moment at the meeting. Well, I suppose awkward to begin with, but then an amazing moment at the meeting where she just broke down and cried. I suppose makes you really appreciate what you have in the group, and realize that there's so many people out there who don't know about the power of this and the power of community and being able to talk to each other. And I constantly get people at Thriveabetes who will come up and say to me, so everybody here has diabetes, or the most of, and I kind of had to say, yes, most people here. And it might be the first time they've sat in a room with more than one other person with diabetes.
That's something that I find, it's just, I think it's really sad actually, because like I know, Emma, you had the clinics and stuff when you were a kid, so you had this great camps. Like, so that's fantastic. But like especially now, I think one thing we noticed at the groups is that like about half of the people who were there were diagnosed when they were adults. They weren't when they were kids. So whatever about when you were kids and you're going to the kids' hospitals and you had things like the camps where you could meet, but as an adult you don't really, if you don't have
anything.
There isn't anything. No. I was I was lucky that my best friend's, because her mum was diabetic, she understood a lot of the stuff. Like she'd come down at 3 a.m. to find her mum sitting crying at the table eating bread because she was having hypo, and she, so she understood things like that nobody else would get, And that was great. And then with Emma, poor Emma, God help her, I'm sure there were times where she's like, Jesus, Niamh, just shut up, because she was she got so much of my frustration, and she was just kept me.
Yeah, but equally you got mine.
I always felt like mine was like 90% and yours was 10.
No, it was more you gave a damn. I didn't about your own, and I didn't about mine.
But just to be able to, even just the day, not even looking for someone to solve your problems, just to be able to go, Jesus Christ, I've had the worst day, my sugars are all over the place, and for someone to go, yep, I get it. You know, it didn't need to have the problem solved. You just need someone to understand. And I just think it would have been so hard if I didn't know someone who knew and who understood, because you can't explain it. And there's always that kind of, I don't know, so many times you go, oh, you look, when you tell someone you're diabetic, you're like, but you don't look diabetic. It's like, there's nothing physically to show anybody that you're going through all of this crap on a daily basis, and that it is like that. I can't even just decide now I'm going for a walk because I'm just going to hypo. I know that I can't just go and do ordinary things that other people can do, and that's
without
hard.
Having to think.
Yeah, it's very hard for people to get their head around, like, how much is involved in it.
But when you're not doing it every day or thinking about it every day, you don't think, you know, it's just the norm. Like I find like they come up a lot online, you know, those pictures of the brains, and one is like someone with diabetes and I don't know, somebody who has to catch a bus at 10 a.m. and it's like all the things that are going through your brain at that moment in time, and the diabetic is like literally 1,000 things going on, and then the other person is just like, leave the house, 10-minute walk, get on the bus. That's it.
Have I got my keys and my phone? That's it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I always find those hilariously funny, but so unbelievably accurate, unbelievably accurate. And I know I've definitely sent various memes to Niamh over the year about the unexplained high or the unexplained low, more the high than the low. Yeah. And Niamh's like, but there has to be a reason. I'm like, sometimes there isn't. Just get over it.
The curse of the logical brain is like, no, there has to be A plus. Why can it not just be straightforward?
But it's science.
It's the whole, like, I did exactly the same today as I did yesterday. I ate exactly the same today as I did yesterday. And today my bloods are over 12 all day. And yesterday they were perfect. You know, it's just one of those things. Sometimes you have those days. But at least we can laugh about it, eh?
Yeah, well, I think if it was just me and you were trying to put up with it on your own, I think there'd be a lot more crying.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap up here shortly, but I want to ask one more question in relation to the group. And you mentioned, I think, Emma, you mentioned that you've had speakers over the years. Mm-hmm. Have you had any standout speakers, or what kind of array of speakers can you remember?
We've had dietitians, we've had chiropodists, we've had nurses, diabetic nurse specialists, we've had pump representatives, and then one who everybody will agree is the standout is Mr. Consultant himself, Mr. Moore. Yeah. Now I think he's spoken 2, if not 3 times for us. But every time he has spoken, our numbers have been through the roof. And then it's like, where does he sit? Where can I go? How do I see him? How do I get him? Look, I'm very, very lucky that he happens to be my consultant. And if he ever leaves my hospital, I'm going where he goes. And if that is to the back arse of nowhere down south somewhere, I'm going. I don't care. I'll take annual leave that day and I'll drive down to his clinic, because I have a really good relationship with him. And I love how he's so open to technology. He's so open to the diabetic. So over the years, I've had various consultants, and some of them are very much treat you like a textbook. Like the textbook says this, so you have to do that. Whereas Kevin would always be like, what works for you? Let's figure this out. That's not going to work for you. We already know that. Let's not even go there and try it. Let's try something else. So I love that he's so open like that. And again, through various meetings, you realize, well, for me anyway, I realize how lucky I am to be under his care. In comparison to some other hospitals with the teams they have or the consultants they have, they're not always as open and honest and tech savvy, I suppose, as Kevin is. But he's always, hands down, I don't think Niamh will disagree with me. He's been our number one speaker time and time again. Every time we have a guest speaker, everybody's, our numbers go up, but particularly with Kevin. I mean, Gráinne, you know what he's like. He's spoken at Thriveabetes and various things. Like he's just great. There
is a reason that we keep asking him back.
Yeah, exactly. And we'd ask him more as well. Only I feel like I've taken enough of his time over the years, and I'm conscious of not asking him continuously to come in. But he's probably due an email from me actually as a guest. It's been a while.
I think we're lucky. I suppose the fact that it's run by and for diabetics, the speakers have always been interesting. I can't remember anywhere I've ever gone, oh God, that was a complete waste of time, because it's
because you get to choose.
Yes, stuff that we're interested in, and even if it was something that you mightn't be hugely interested in, there's always something, you always get something out of it, as far as I'm concerned. There always seems to be something that you didn't know, or you're like, oh, right, okay, cool. So it's never a waste of time. No. There's always something to be gained from it. And I think, I just think they're always worth doing. And thank God we have people who are willing to come in and speak to us.
Big time. Yeah.
But the biggest commitment, I think, is from the people who keep attending the meetings year after year, month after month. And I didn't mention this, but you have monthly meetings throughout the year, and then a couple of times a year you do a social event when, hopefully that's allowed again. Yeah. So looking forward, I know we're all kind of anxious to get back into face-to-face again. But do you have kind of a vision for going forward? Are you going to go back to face-to-face, or do you want to incorporate virtual a little bit?
We're going to, I hope the plan is to do both. So have a laptop running in the background for virtual. That's my plan. That's what I'd like to do. That when we are back physically in a room together, that we can still have people coming from, even if they're in Dublin, but just can't make the journey that particular night, that they can still log on if it suits. And obviously the wider network as well. That's the plan, Gráinne. I don't know if it'll work, but I'm certainly going to give it a go.
Yeah, we'll get our IT department onto it.
Pardon?
We'll get our IT department onto it.
We'll get our IT department onto it, yes, Mr. KB. But that's the plan. And we're going to wait. Like we'll probably continue the virtuals probably till September, only virtual till September, and make a call then after that, possibly. But I don't know if our venue is still available. That's the problem now. I don't know if it's still standing after COVID, if it's still operational. I haven't been in touch with them because I know at the moment it's definitely not open. Yeah. But whether it's actually going to reopen is a little bit of a worry. It took us a long time to find this venue. Yeah,
I was about to say that venue has been the biggest problem, because Diabetes Ireland moved offices and they moved way out north side. And then you were lucky in that Novo Nordisk offered their city centre location, but then they moved. Yeah. And there was quite a long time in limbo. So it feels like you had just gotten back.
We had one meeting in our new venue. One. The first Wednesday in March.
Yeah.
That was it.
Oh,
so I think 2020.
But I do think that there's COVID is horrible. It has been horrible and really tough for people, but there have been a few silver linings in the likes of that virtual meetings have become the norm. So I don't think if to do it again, if we didn't have a venue, I think we just keep going with the virtual. I think we missed a trick here. When you look back now, you're like, damn it, we could have been doing it. but we just nobody was used to it. Nobody used these things, you know. So now having a physical venue is less of a stress, or, you know, it's not going to stop us or slow us down, I don't think, like it did before.
No, absolutely not. It's just it's just been so long since we've had a physical meeting.
I know, I definitely want to, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, but no, you're dead right, Niamh. But it's not as big an issue. It's not actually an issue at all, let's be honest. If we can't meet physically in a venue, that won't stop us having our social outlets twice a year. We'll definitely do those.
At least
pardon?
At least twice.
At least two. We've a lot to make up for. You'll have to spend a night in Dublin for our next social event, and
you betcha. Betcha. I am barely holding on to my seat to get out of this house and get meeting people.
Well, it'll definitely be in December. There may be one before that, but there will definitely be one in December.
I will mark it into my calendar.
Do.
And then final thoughts. So I'm going to go to each of you, and I mean, because my passion in the diabetes sphere is to promote peer support and try and encourage more and more people to get involved. And I think it's kind of working. But if you had to, if you were to offer advice to anybody who was thinking about or was considering setting up a group in their local area, once we can do that, is there any piece of advice that you would offer that person going forward?
I think having a couple of people. Yeah.
I was about to say the same.
Sorry, I got in first. But no, I definitely think it would be a lot harder if it was just on one person. It's a lot harder to organize. It would be a lot more stressful. The fact that you have that backup there, you have another brain to pick. If you're having, for whatever reason, you need to take some time off, you know that the group can keep going without you. I think that's definitely one of the things I would say.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I can find somebody to rope someone else in.
Yeah.
And because you will find those people once the group starts. You will find people who will want to help. So
yeah, initially you might be on your own, but very quickly you'll have a buddy or two willing to help. Definitely. Yeah.
And in the early days when we started, because we started as a 2-person setup as well, and then she moved back to Germany. But in the beginning, in the early days, at least I knew one other person would show up. So I wasn't going to end up sitting there by myself. Now I did eventually, you know, in some of those early years, I did end up sitting by myself. But once we moved past that and got established, it never happened. But yeah, I would definitely say, you know, it takes one person to kind of kick it off, but you have to have, two is the key. 2 or more is definitely the key. Anything else, Emma, that you wanted to add to that, or is that?
Well, again, we can do it virtually, but if you can source a venue that you're pretty sure is going to be a solid venue for at least a year, depending on how often you're having your meetings, I think if you can do that before you actually have your meetings, rather than we'll meet here this month, we'll meet there next month, so a solid, stable venue if you can, and somewhere central. That's what we found. Like, it had to be city centre because we have people coming from all over. So at least in the city centre, there was train, Dart, Lewis bus. You know, there was plenty of options for people. And obviously, with more rural towns, I appreciate the options aren't as plentiful. But at least if it's on a bus route for somebody, you'll get more numbers that way. You know,
so that is a really good point. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And one other thing I suppose I would say is don't be afraid to ask. You know, so if it's a speaker that you want to get, if it's a venue that you're looking for, all they can say is no. Like, no one's going to kick you out the door just for asking the question if they can help you out. So don't be afraid to ask. So because you'd be surprised sometimes what you'll actually get yeses to. So
and put on the whole, this is volunteer, like we're doing this voluntarily to help our community.
Definitely.
Put on the sad face.
Brilliant. Well, girls, this has been a blast. It's been brilliant to catch up with you and kind of
Thank you.
Take a trip down memory lane to discuss the whole story. And I really, really thank you for joining me today and for your time.
No problem.
Thanks so much, Grania.